how much of the effect on, I'd love to see some of the data on executive function, but I'll take your word for this. How much of this do you think is neurochemical, is kind of from the decline in testosterone, and how much do you think is it being contributed to by culture and society and behavioral, attitudinal changes? Or are they one and the same thing?
I think it's a nuanced answer really. I think neurochemically, I think that will be the chief cause. Neurochemical distortion now, our testosterone has almost half, just plummeted in the last 40 years really. So you look at the early 80s compared to now, we've 40%, some say 25, some say 40, that kind of range. A significant proportion, less testosterone than it was in the 80s, and then the cultural change as well. Absolutely, going from the long strategy game to now quick wins, all that kind of stuff. But I think neurochemically, because the role of a CEO, the role of someone who manages organizations, has not drastically changed. It's still complex. It's still multifaceted. But we're seeing such a decline now in ability, because this whole thing about brain fog. If you look at one of the most Googled terms of 2020 during COVID, was COVID brain fog. And that again, it's a lot of, we talk about dopamine fatigue, you talked about detox as well before, dopamine detox. Our dopamine receptors are just completely smashed. They're just fried up from constant up. And they say the average 10-year-old sees more naked women in half an hour than the king of the past would have in his whole life. So if you look at Genghis Khan, for instance, I don't know how many wives or concubines he had. He would have seen hundreds of naked women. But a kid can see that now in half an hour. So imagine that. The dopamine, he's not developed yet. His frontal cortex is not developed yet. His limbic system is developed yet. So he's getting all this access.
Sorry, I missed that with the connection, but you're right. The level of rewiring that's happening when someone is that humans and brains don't change that quickly intergenerationally, but some suddenly just one of the levers in the system, in the big dashboard of human consciousness, has been pushed to max.
Yes.
Which in your case, as you said, there is exposure to naked women goes from I don't know, a couple every couple of years or decade up to several per half an hour.
Yeah.
So that's a really concerning change. And of course that's going to have downstream effects on pleasure centers and perception towards women and attitudes towards themselves and self-image and all these things. It's like, what do you do?